he lost everything. He lost his job, his home, his family, and he found himself sleeping on a cold concrete floor with nothing but regret and rain for company. For weeks he just stared at the sky and asked, "Why me?" Until one night, a stranger sat beside him and said, "It's not what you've lost, it's what you do next." That one sentence hit him harder than the rock bottom he was living in. He stopped blaming, started learning. He devoured every book at the library, cleaned himself up, got a job washing dishes, and turned that into a catering side hustle. Years later, that same man stood on stage as a millionaire, a mentor, proof that mindset is the real currency. The pain didn't break him, it built him. Rock bottom wasn't the end. It was the foundation. What if your worst moment is just the start of your best chapter? Comment ready? If you're building yours?
He woke up in a stranger's bathroom, shivering, broke, and a loan addiction had stolen everything. His job, his family, even his reflection. Rock bottom wasn't a place. It was a feeling of being utterly invisible. But that moment, that cold tile floor, became his turning point. He checked into rehab not for hope, but for survival. Days turned to weeks, and one night, he heard a newcomer crying in the hallway. He sat beside him, shared his story, and for the first time, saw his pain reflected back. Helping others became his lifeline. He became a counselor, a mentor, a lighthouse for those still lost in the storm. Today, he's 5 years sober and says the greatest high is watching someone rediscover their worth. Because he was broken, he knows how to help others heal. Do you believe pain can be your purpose? Drop A if you do and tag someone who needs to hear this.
Hey, I know it hurts right now. You're sitting on the floor with your heart in pieces, wondering if love will ever feel safe again. But hear me out. This isn't the end, it's your beginning. One day you'll look back and thank this moment, because it cracked you open just enough for the light to get in. You'll find strength in places you didn't know existed. You'll build a life you're proud of, one rooted in truth, not in someone else's validation. You'll smile again, laugh until your ribs ache, and love not in desperation, but in fullness. That version of you, the one rising from this wreckage, is powerful beyond belief. This heartbreak, it's just the start of your becoming. So, breathe, trust. You're not broken, you're being rebuilt. And when it's all said and done, you'll realize love didn't leave you. It was making room for something real. What would you tell your younger self if they could hear you now?
He was drowning in dead credit cards, maxed, phone ringing with collectors, and a knot in his chest that never left. Every day felt like quicksand, sinking deeper while pretending everything was fine. But one sleepless night, desperate and broken, he typed, "How to fix my life," into YouTube. That's when he discovered the truth. Wealth starts in the mind. He dove into books, podcasts, and mentors, rewiring every belief he had about money. He stopped saying, "I'm broke," and started asking, "How can I afford this?" He learned to see money as energy, not lack. He created a budget, faced every number, started a side hustle, and tracked every win. Over the next year, his debt shrank, and his income doubled, not because of luck, but because he changed who he believed he was. The man who once felt powerless now walks with purpose, confidence, and cash flow. Your financial breakthrough doesn't start with your bank account, it starts with your beliefs. Are you ready to rewrite your money story? Comment, "I'm ready," if this hit home.
He stared at the fifth rejection email, same hollow words. Different company, and something in him snapped. But not in defeat. This time, he didn't spiral. He shut his laptop, stood up, and whispered, "I'm done chasing wages, I'm building wealth." That night, he cracked open a course on investing, then digital assets, then cash-flowing skills. No more waiting to be chosen, he chose himself. He stopped trading hours for dollars and started stacking assets that made money while he slept. And slowly, he felt the shift from survival to strategy, from scarcity to abundance. Because wealth isn't about luck, it's about learning the rules they never taught us. The question is, are you ready to stop settling and start building?
She woke up every day, hating the mirror, overweight, depressed, and drained from a life that felt stuck on repeat. But one quiet morning, she laced up her shoes before the sun rose, stepped outside, and started walking, not to lose weight, but to find herself. Every step in the silence was a rebellion against the voice that told her she couldn't change. Weekly fitness goals replaced her self-doubt with purpose. and those early walks became sacred rituals of power. She didn't sprint into a new life, she walked into it, sunrise by sunrise. Slowly, her mind cleared, her energy returned, and her eyes lit up again. What once felt impossible became her new reality. Not a diet, not a trend, a comeback. Because sometimes, healing starts with a single step. If you've ever felt like giving up, let this be your sign to start. Like, comment, or share this with someone who needs to see it.
He woke up every morning with a weight heavier than his blanket. Zero motivation, zero energy, just an endless scroll of excuses and self-doubt. The gym felt like a distant planet, and even brushing his teeth felt like a chore. But one random Tuesday, standing in his bedroom in silence, he muttered, "Just one push-up." He dropped to the floor. One rep. It wasn't graceful, it shook, it burned, but it was real. And the next day, he did 2, then 3. Days turned into weeks, weeks into a rhythm, and that rhythm sparked something deeper: discipline. He didn't overhaul his life overnight. He just showed up for one small win, again and again. The mirror didn't just reflect muscle, it reflected a man who kept a promise to himself. From rock bottom to rise up, tired of waiting for motivation? What's your one push-up today? Drop it in the comments and tag someone who needs to hear this.
She's late. Again, coffee spilled on her shirt. Shoes mismatched. Backpack half zipped as she races down the driveway with her son's hand in hers, both of them laughing through the chaos. The school bell rings just as they skid to a stop, breathless. But he turns to her and says, "You're faster than Flash, Mom." She misses the first 5 minutes of her Zoom meeting. Her boss frowns. But her kid's lunchbox has a smiley-faced note and his favorite snack. Dinner SMS, burnt toast and cereal again, but they eat on the couch under a blanket fort like it's a 5-star restaurant. She collapses on the floor by bedtime, tired eyes, hair a mess, but when she kisses him goodnight, he whispers, "You're my hero." She doesn't have it all together, but to him, she's everything. Because love isn't perfect. Schedules it's showing up, even if it's messy. To every parent doing their best, your kids see your heart, not your lateness. Share this. If you believe superheroes don't always wear they wear yesterday's clothes and still make the world feel safe.
I was rushing through another busy afternoon when my 7-year-old tugged at my sleeve. Eyes wide and lips trembling, he'd accidentally broken my favorite mug. Before I could react, he blurted out, "I'm sorry, Mommy, I didn't mean to. I just didn't want to lie." In that moment, my heart caught. I saw more than a broken mug. I saw the weight of truth carried by tiny shoulders. I knelt, hugged him tight, and whispered, "Thank you for telling me the truth." Later that night, I realized how often I tell little white lies to make life easier, but his bravery reminded me that honesty is something we grow into, not out of. He chose truth when it was hard, and it showed me I need to do the same, not just for him, but because of him. How do you teach honesty in your home?
She stood in the hospital hallway, trembling, clutching a crumpled diagnosis in her hand. Her world shattered in an instant, and fear wrapped around her like chains. But through the tears, one verse whispered through her heart, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." That night, instead of spiraling, she knelt beside her hospital bed and prayed, surrendering her fear to the one who held her future. Day by day, trust replaced panic. The treatments were hard, the road uncertain, but she faced it all with peace that made no sense, except it came from God. Months later, doctors couldn't explain her recovery, but she could. Faith had carried her where fear would have crushed her. Her story became a light in the cancer ward, proof that trust in God changes everything. So, when fear knocks on your door, will you answer with faith?
They told Jesus, "Lord, the one you love is sick." But instead of rushing, he waited because Jesus wasn't late. He was intentional, and what looked like silence was actually set up for something greater. When he finally arrived, Lazarus had been dead for days. Yet with a shout, Jesus called him out of the grave, proving that God's delays are not his denials but divine appointments for glory. So many times, we beg God to show up now, to fix it now, to move now, But what if his waiting is our becoming? What if the grave is where the greatest faith is born? Jesus didn't come to prevent the death. He came to conquer it. And in your life too, the miracle may not be the answer you expected. It may be even better. God's timing is never random. It's redemptive, always working for your good and his glory. So if you're in a season that feels silent, broken, or hopeless, hold on, because the resurrection is coming. The wait might just be where your testimony begins. Do you trust him even in the delay? Let me know in the comments, and like this if you believe God's timing is perfect.
He lost everything in the war: his home, his family, his country, and for years. Amir carried nothing but anger and regret through refugee camps and silent nights. He blamed the world, the bombs, even himself. One rainy day, soaked and bitter, he watched a barefoot little girl, no parents, no coat, no food, dancing in the mud, laughing like the sky had never fallen. That laugh pierced him. How could someone with less still shine? For the first time, Amir cried, not from grief, but release. In that moment, he chose not to be broken, but to build. He now teaches displaced children to read, to dream, to hope, because if she could laugh, maybe the rest of them could live. What pain are you ready to turn into purpose? Comment your story, like if this moved you, and share to inspire someone who needs this.
She arrived with 2 suitcases and silence. No friends, no familiar faces, just the weight of starting over in a country that didn't know her name. The city buzzed, but she felt like a ghost, floating between languages she didn't speak and customs she didn't understand. One morning, needing air more than answers, she started walking, first just down the block, then through winding trails, letting her feet take the lead. Birds became her first companions. Their songs were oddly comforting in a world of hard edges. She ran her fingers across tree bark, old stone, new walls, textures that whispered stories no one else told. Over time, each trail turned into a sentence, each hill a paragraph, and slowly the landscape began to speak to her in the only language that needed no translation. And maybe that's how we all begin to belong, not through words, but through wonder. Have you ever felt out of place?
He once ruled $1 billion empire. Sharp suit, sharper mind, admired by millions. But one scandal shattered it all. Headlines turned venomous. Boardroom allies vanished. Lawsuits, betrayals, humiliation. It all came crashing down. Lone in a rented room with nothing but regrets and silence, he hit rock bottom. But in that silence, he listened. And in his ruin, he rebuilt, not with power, but with purpose. Now he speaks to the broken, the ambitious, the reckless, sharing the mistakes that cost him everything. He turned pain into fuel and shame into service. He doesn't lead companies anymore. He saves people from the fall. He survived. It's because true success is not what you build. It's what you rebuild when no one's watching. The question is, what will you do with your second chance? If this moved you, like, share, or tag someone who needs this reminder.